Noted for being banned in multiple countries since its 1980 release, Cannibal Holocaust has proven to be one of the most discussed controversial films ever. Known for being the film to introduce the found footage genre, the film contains many graphic scenes of violence, gore, scenes of SA, and animal cruelty throughout its 96-minute runtime. Accusations of the director, including real deaths and animal cruelty, has sparked discussions over its merit and legality. In order to do a deep dive into the many controversies and content of the film, I purchased the Blu-ray put out by Grindhouse Releasing, which contains many interviews, production photos, and commentaries. Due to the two commentaries, I had to rewatch the uncut film twice, so yeah, that was an experience. So let's not let that time go to waste, and let's get into the film. A 4-person film crew disappears while filming a documentary on indigenous cannibal tribes in the Amazon rainforest entitled The Green Inferno. Tasked with finding the crew, an anthropologist named Harold Monroe goes to the Amazon rainforest with 2 guides. Throughout his journey, he encounters the disturbing activities and customs of the tribes that inhabit the jungle. However, when he makes contact with the tribes with the help of the guides, he begins to find the remains of the crew and knowledge that the crew caused great pain to the tribes. Eventually, Harold obtains the film reels from the missing crew. He returns to New York and talks to the broadcasting company that paid for the previous documentary made by the deceased crew. The executives want to run a documentary on the last reels of the crew, but Harold disagrees as he has seen the full footage and believes no one should view the footage due to its graphic content and acts of the film crew. The executives disagree and they show the violent documentary entitled The Last Road to Hell to Harold in order to convince him that they are fine with showing graphic content and are aware that the crew staged violent events in order to get the most brutal and intense footage. Harold disagrees and makes the executives view the reels. As the executives view the final reels, they slowly get more and more disturbed at the actions of the crew. The crew would stage violent acts on the tribes in order to create more intense footage. They then record the gang SAing a tribal woman who is then impaled by a wooden pole by her tribe because of her loss of virginity. The tribe then takes revenge on the crew by brutally murdering them and gang SAing the women of the crew as well. The executives order the film reels to be destroyed and Harold walks out of the building and says he wonders who the real cannibals are. There is a note at the end of the film that expresses that the film projectionist did not destroy the reels and sold them, but he was fined and served a suspended sentence. Note that this plot summary skips over a lot of the most violent content, so viewers beware. Outside of the violence in SA, the film's controversy mainly stems from the on-screen killings of 6 animals. These real killings include a coyote, a turtle, a boa constrictor, 2 squirrel monkeys, and a pig. There was a tarantula killing, however, that wasn't a real tarantula, and is confirmed to be fake by Diodato and actress Francesca Ciadi. I want to mention that these deaths are really brutal and very upsetting, and I believe no animal should be killed for a film. It's worth noting that Diodato regrets having the animals in the film, and much of the crew disagreed with the animal deaths. So much so that the crew members threw up after the monkey killings. Actor Perry Perkinen cried after the turtle killing, and actor Kerman tried to stop the killing of the coyote but was unsuccessful and stormed off set while the killing of the coyote was filmed. However, it is worth noting that the indigenous cast members ate the animals killed and treated monkey brains as a delicacy. Apparently, the film was banned in 50 countries. However, although it was banned in multiple countries, the 50-country claim is just a marketing slogan. The film premiered in Milan, Italy. However, 10 days after release, the film was confiscated under the orders of the local magistrate. The director, Ruggero Diodato, the screenwriter, and the producers were later convicted of obscenity. The film would be released from seizure in 1982. During its theatrical run in France, a magazine titled Photo suggested that some of the deaths in the film were real, which signifies the film was snuffed. There is a rumor that goes along with this saying that Diodato was charged for murder and had to prove he did not kill the crew. This goes in line with another rumor that is often repeated saying that Diodato made the crew sign a contract saying they would not appear in any film for a year after release. Deodato confirmed that he did make the crew sign a contract for the 1-year appearance. However, actor Carl York claims he never signed such contract nor appeared in court. Plus, other cast members worked on other films right after finishing Cannibal Holocaust. So it's kind of safe to say that this is just a rumor, and Deodato seems to have liked to stretch the truth of the rumors surrounding the film. Back to the snuff court rumor. The rumor further continues, saying he either brought one of the film crew to court and brought the impaled girl and showed the special effect. But this is just a rumor, as there is no evidence that Deodato or the film producers were ever charged for murder, and as mentioned by Carl York, he never appeared in any court case relating to the film. In terms of the Italian court case, Cannibal Holocaust was banned due to the real animal deaths, which violated animal cruelty laws. Deodato and the producers were sentenced to a 4-month suspended sentence after being convicted of obscenity and violence. Deodato would then try to get the film unbanned in Italy, which it would eventually be unbanned in 1984, though not uncut. Today in Italy, the uncut film is fully unbanned. In the UK, the film was released uncut, however not theatrical, but straight to video in order to avoid the BBFC, British Board of Film Censors, banning the film. However, it would eventually get banned, as in 1983, 72 video releases known as the Video Nasties were presented to the BBFC in order to be classified and prosecuted for obscenity. Cannibal Holocaust was prosecuted and banned. The film would not be unbanned in the UK until 2001, where 6 minutes of footage was cut. However, in 2011, the film was allowed to be shown nearly uncut, with only 15 seconds of footage being cut, which was the footage of the killing of the Cody Mundi. In Australia, the 96-minute print was refused registration. A few months later, a censored 89-minute cut of the film was also banned. In 2001, the film was set to be shown at the Melbourne Underground Film Festival, but would be dropped from the festival. It wasn't until October 2005 that Cannibal Holocaust was passed with an R18+ rating. The film was banned in South Africa in 2001. New Zealand rejected classification of the film in 2006. They offered the cuts to be made in order to receive an R18 classification. However, these cuts were never made and the film remains banned. The film was also banned in Norway, Finland, Iceland, Singapore, and apparently other countries, but I cannot find any substantial info on the other countries. The film was never banned in the USA and was released in 1985 by Trans-American Films. However, it would receive an X rating, which limited its release to certain theaters. Although it's worth mentioning that the film does contain real footage of death in the form of stock footage. The film the executives show to the professor is entitled The Last Road to Hell. It contains stock footage of a firing squad execution of prisoners by the military. Apparently the footage is from Nigeria. The reason Deodato used stock footage is the fact that he was inspired to make this film by Mondo Films, which showed this graphic real footage. Interestingly, even in uncut releases of the film, there are multiple versions of the Last Road to Hell segment. There is an extended 10 seconds of footage that is not in the uncut version of the film, however, it is in the special features of the Blu-ray. The footage just shows another shot of the firing squad, a close-up of a dead victim, and extended footage of bodies being carried into the back of a truck. The last thing that I want to bring up that is highly ignored or unnoticed about this film is the fact that the girl in the gang essay scene and who is impaled was 14 at the time of filming. Actor Carl York confirms during his interview that she was a local who was 14 at the time of filming. This changes a lot, as often when the film is promoted, the shot of her nude and impaled is shown, which in combination with the simulated gang SA scene just makes me uncomfortable and not be able to recommend the film to anyone. It's worth mentioning that when footage of the tribes are shown, there are nude children. However, I'm pretty sure that this is legal to be shown because they are indigenous people, so it's pretty much like how Nat Geo gets away with showing naked women on TV. I did some research and the age of consent in Colombia is 14, which is disturbing to me, but I assume that's how these scenes were able to be shot and kept in the film. I just think it's worth noting that the actress was 14, and I'm generally surprised that not many people know or have issues with this when discussing the many controversies of this film. In terms of the animals, Deodato mentions that he limited the animal killings to animals that natives were already going to eat. For the pig, a costume designer got annoyed by eating fish every day and suggested they kill a pig she got from a village so she could prepare it. Actor Carl York was supposed to shoot the pig, but he did not want to do it as he rode on a boat with the pig and grew a bond with it. When they did shoot the pig, he was supposed to do a long monologue, but he botched it from seeing the pig get killed. Deodato was pissed as they only had one pig. A guide suggested to Deodato that the natives could sell the turtle shells for money, which convinced him to include the turtle killing. Actor Perry cried after shooting the turtle killing. However, he is in the film holding the head of the turtle over his mouth, so I don't know if that statement is true, and the fact that Deodato mentioned that fact kinda, makes me question the authenticity of that fact. Deodato got 180 million lire to make the film. Lire was the currency of Italy before the euro took over. Deodato got 800 million lire for the European rights, but he had to hand back the entire 800 million lire to United Artists after the film was pulled. After being pulled, the film was called Cannibal Holocaust in order to sell it secretly in Italy. A man from France bought the rights for 40,000 lire. The man made a lot from the film and became close friends with Deodato. He would give Deodato 25% of the profits. A buyer bought the rights for Venezuela, but it also included the Japan rights. The film was so popular in Japan that it was number 2 in the box office, earning 21 million, right behind E.T., which made 30 million. When the film came out in Spain, it did average. However, after the French magazine released the article claiming the film showed real deaths, the film did better. The crew flew to Leticia, Colombia, as it was only accessible by plane, and shot scenes there. Leticia was very dangerous at the time due to the trafficking of cocaine. Interestingly, the pilots shown in the film died 2 years after the film due to crashing the plane. During the commentary between Kerman and Deodato, they briefly mentioned that the 2 pilots shown in the film were actually drug runners and were American. Actor Carl York was the last actor casted. A friend of actor Perkinen was initially cast to play Alan Yates, but he dropped out of the film shortly before the production team left the New York airport. He still appears in the film only briefly. Casting director Bill Williams contacted Carl York to play the role, asking him if he was free for 3 weeks and able to go to South America. At the audition at Times Square, the casting director looked at photos between actors, his resume, and asked what size shoes he was. Apparently, they had already bought the costume and shoes, so they were looking for someone with the same size. In the commentary track, York claims the casting director was joking, as the shoes they gave him did not fit. He was flown out rather quickly, and when he arrived, he was warned of rebels attacking the government. York did not read the script until he was on set. He initially didn't know if the film was actual snuff film, so he carried his passport, plane ticket, and wallet at all times. What made him more comfortable about the shooting was when he was riding in the boat to the set, he saw dolphins swim behind the boat. However, he eventually saw a dead monkey and a human leg float down the river. Turns out the leg was a prosthetic and from the leg cutting scene of the film. York had to learn his lines the morning of the shoot. In addition, the scenes where York is invisible, such as the turtle scene, were shot before he got there. York mentions that he wasn't friendly with the only other native English speaker, Perry, because he felt Perry was mad that his friend dropped the film. York was worried about the burning hut scene, as they actually did burn down the hut with actual people inside the hut. He was paid in pesos every week. However, one week he was short 17 and fought with the producer. York told the producer if he didn't get the exact amount, he wouldn't shoot any more scenes. A few hours later, he got his money in US dollars. York did not want to appear nude during the film, but he did. Actress Francesca suggested before they shoot the sex scene that they actually have intercourse in the forest. He denied this because he had a girlfriend back in New York. The actress became somewhat distant after the rejection. York wanted there to be a double for his nude scenes because he had seen other Italians nude and he wanted people to think he was bigger down there. They didn't do that. They did the lovemaking scene 5 times, which was painful because of the bamboo they did the scene on. The actress did not want to be nude, but she got yelled at by Deodato and she eventually took off her clothes. After the 5 takes, a native went up to New York and said, "Wow," 5 times, as the natives thought they actually had sex. Francesca did not put this film on her resume as she didn't want to be associated with it. However, York put it on his resume since most Americans at the time were not aware of what it was. York claims they shot the gang essay scene first with their clothes on and he didn't want to do the scene. During a take, the actress chipped his tooth and he got really angry shooting the scene with all the mud and heat. And again, it's worth mentioning that he claims the girl was 14. When the cannibals eat meat, it really was just pork. Kerman did not eat pork, so for the scene where he is invited to dinner by the cannibals, they got him beef to eat. Deodato was influenced to make this film because of the news coverage of the Red Brigades, a terrorist group in Italy. Every day they would show violence and killings, and he believed that some of it was staged in order to get footage that would shock the audiences. Although it is worth mentioning that Deodato has mentioned that he really just set out to make a cannibal film. The young actor who played the guide had to leave shooting for a bit to attend his father's funeral. His father had apparently been killed by diamond traffickers. Originally, they didn't tell the actor that his father was killed and told him to go back to Bogota because his father was sick. The actor refused to go because he wanted to finish filming his scenes. Deodato eventually told him of the death and he went back to Bogota. When he returned, he claimed that he would find his father's killer and kill him. For the vomit, they used cereal. The cocaine was talcum powder. The tribal chief that tells the professor what happened did half of his scenes drunk. He was sober at the start of shooting the scene, but they broke for lunch and he drank too much. You can notice it when he gets the knife. He would also play the chief of the other tribe because Deodato loved how expressive he was. The actor who played the guide for the Lost Crew went to jail after the shooting of the film. Apparently, the actor went to the forest with a tourist in order to kill Indians. I don't know if he actually killed anyone, but he got out after 4 months. The actor claims that if Deodato comes back, he would kill him for whatever reason. Deodato never went back. The soundtrack was created by Riz Ortolani. Deodato wanted Ortolani to do the soundtrack because he loved his work on Mondo Cane. Deodato showed Ortolani the film without music, then asked if he would do it, and Ortolani said that Deodato was a genius and he would do it with great pleasure. The soundtrack was done with an orchestra and electronic effects. Personally, the introduction scene with the title theme is incredible and gives you a false comfort for what's to come. Ortolani was told to create a soundtrack that was in contrast to what is shown in the film. Deodato has mentioned that people have told him that they got married to the Cannibal Holocaust theme. Interestingly enough, in the end credits of the season 2 episode, The Theater and its double of Euphoria, the theme plays. So I guess someone at the production of Euphoria is a fan of the film. A bit of lost media. The piranha scene is often brought up. The scene was never complete, however the script of the scene can be found on the Blu-ray, which would have had a single warrior injured in battle have his leg amputated by warriors of the rival tribe. The tribe would then tie the wounded warrior to a log and lower him into a piranha-infested waters, slowly being eaten alive by the fearsome fish. The scene was intended to be shot, however it was never completed because the piranhas were difficult to control and the underwater camera malfunctioned. 2 stills of the scene exist, however the footage that was shot is likely lost forever. On the Blu-ray, there is an Easter egg where Deodato confirms the scene was never finished. Other lost media is the alternate clothed takes of the film. According to Carl York, they shot the gang SA scene multiple times, but also shot a take where all the actors were fully clothed during the scene. The reason was that this footage was going to be used in the Middle Eastern markets. I could not find these versions, so it seems to be lost media. If anyone knows more information on these versions of the film, please let me know. Actor Robert Kerman was an adult film star and famously starred in over 100 adult films. Kerman believes that the Blair Witch Project did the found footage better because it was successful with no gore and focused on the horror. Worth mentioning that in the same interview he said he never watched the Blair Witch, so that's kind of funny. Kerman fought a lot of Deodato but mentions that he believes Deodato liked to fight. The two would be back to normal only 5 minutes after fighting. Kerman said he ate mostly fresh bull meat as it was the safest thing to eat boiled. He also mentions that one day while they were in the local town, a bull got loose and Kerman hid from the bull. However, Deodato did not hide and fought the bull with his coat. The white mix he ate in the film was apparently pancake mix and did not taste bad. During an interview from 2000 of the DVD re-release of the film, Kerman asked for the muskrat scene to be cut from the release. The interviewer said they cannot do that because of censorship. It's worth noting that the Blu-ray includes an animal-friendly cut of the film, which cuts all of the animal scenes from the film. The 4K 88 film's release only contains this cut apparently. Kerman considers the film to be worse than the adult films he was in and considers the film to somewhat ruin his career. The film was shot in 35mm, but the found footage was shot in 16mm. The cameras the actors held were not real. The cameraman Robert Forges said that it was easier to work with the natives than the actors as they were quiet and peaceful. He said he also closed one eye while shooting the animal deaths and criticized the actors, saying that if the actors were completely against the animal death, they would have not done the scenes. Actress Francesca was told to audition for the role by her agent because she was friends with Deodato's sister when they went to school. This was her first film. She also mentions that there was supposed to be a scene with all the actors crossing the river, but the river was infested with piranhas. She also mentions that she saw a lot of crocodiles and dolphins in the river, and also mentions the natives were not natives costumes and wore makeup. Some of the promotional material and art for video releases show images from different films such as Cannibal Holocaust. In addition, some promotional materials show different takes of scenes from the film. For instance, the infamous impaling. Most promotional materials show the full frontal angle of the impaling. However, a full frontal shot is never shown in the film. Another example is the usage of the ritual punishment image. The husband and the wife are shown fully clothed, which in the film both are shown nude in the scene. In addition, the trailer shows slightly different takes of scenes from the movie. The footage is cleaner than what appears in the film, as the lost reels were degraded to appear authentic and scratches were added in order to hide the special effects of the impaling scene. The trailers for Cannibal Holocaust use red text over a black background. The German trailer uses different colors, mainly due to the colors' similarities to the Nazi Party. In addition, the film is titled Cannibal Massacre, for obvious reasons. The crew would travel by boat to reach the rainforest sets. They shot exterior shots in New York with interiors in Rome. Deodato briefly appears as a man sitting on the NYU campus. The reporters shown at the beginning of the film would go on to tell reporters that the director really killed people after filming was wrapped. There is a continuity error in the film. In the beginning, an army man is killed, but he appears a couple of minutes later alive. The film was mainly shot in English, but was dubbed over later. Many of the cast only spoke Spanish or Italian, and only Kerman and Perry spoke English fluently. The assistant director and actor who played Chaco said they didn't use natives but longshoremen, and that they knew how to read and write. He also believes the Blair Witch Project copied the film. The stones from the stoning scene were made from styrofoam. In the scene with the ritual punishment, the wife was played by one of the costume designers. Deodato mentions that no producers called him for a bit after the release of the film because they were worried he would get them into trouble. Deodato did documentaries and commercials to make money during this time. French called Deodato Monsieur Cannibal when they saw him at conventions. For Francesca, she was one of the final 2 girls selected to play the part. The casting director could not decide, so he flipped a coin to choose which girl would get the part. They claimed that every day in the rainforest at around 3 p.m. it would rain. Most actors did not know that animals would be involved and only did find out when they were moments away from shooting the scenes. No injuries were reported with the exception of the actress getting bit by a bug and a sunburn. Both actor Perry and Kerman would star in Cannibal Holocaust, another cannibal jungle film with extreme gore. For the final scene, Francesca claimed that it was not as bad as it appears. The natives were gentle and respectful throughout the whole scene. Actor Kerman arrived on set when the other cast finished shooting their scenes. Deodato made a small cameo in Hostel 2 as a cannibal. Eli Roth is a big fan of the film and created his own cannibal film entitled Green Inferno. I just want to mention that I don't think it's a good film, so really worth watching or even, kind of going over it. But that's just my opinion. You might like this film, and that's whatever. Another Easter egg on the Blu-ray shows the re-release of Cannibal Holocaust back in 2000, and it's an interesting watch. Deodato would always bring food and medicine to the Indians, and still the government thought he was exploiting them. The pregnant girl during the abortion scene was really pregnant. The impaling scene was done by having the girl sit on a bicycle chair and having balsa wood in her mouth. Deodato claims the Blair Witch Project stole the overall skeleton of the film. They used over-the-shoulder cameras when filming, as Steadicam did not exist when they shot this film. A police officer gave actor Kerman a real Smith & Wesson pistol during shooting of the film. Local prostitutes from a local brothel were used for the scene where actor Kerman is in the river nude. The girl executive was Kerman's girlfriend at the time. Deodato was creating another spiritual successor to Cannibal Holocaust entitled Cannibals, but he could not secure funding for it. Deodato would die in December 2022. I originally saw this film when I was in middle school on a website that hosted it with adult ads around 2010. I say the first time I watched it, I could not eat right after. Before doing research for this film, I thought this film was great. I generally thought the impaling scene is like a really shocking and an engraved moment in cinema history in my head. Like, I generally think the part where the camera is focused on Carl York's face and he's smiling, staring at the impaled girl, and then the cameraman says, "We're rolling," and then he immediately goes into character is really like a genius moment in the film. But now learning that the girl that was impaled and essayed was 14 makes me second guess the quality and message of the film. The message is pretty clear with the final line of the film, but I think it's kind of lost Essentially, the film compares modern society to primitive society and asks the viewer who really is the civilized society. The film questions journalistic integrity, as can be seen with the executives pushing for violent material in order to get the most ratings, which in turn makes the crew create more violent footage than what they would have originally seen. However, I think this message is lost considering the fact that Deodato and the producers pretty much push for more violent material in the film to make more people watch it, which, pretty much makes them the executives they were commenting on. Technically, Cannibal Holocaust was the first true found footage film, so it deserves credit for doing that in terms of cinema history. I don't necessarily think that Blair Witch Project copied the film, as they leveraged the usage of the camcorder and the internet to promote their film. Again, it's not clear if Deodato actually made the actors sign the 1-year clause, or if he just added that because to make the Blair Witch Project seem more like a blatant ripoff. If you're going to have to watch Cannibal Holocaust, I recommend the animal-free cuts, as the animal deaths are brutal and don't really add anything to the plot. They're just there to shock for the most part. In terms of the other cannibal jungle films out there, out of the couple I watched, which includes Jungle Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox, I truly think that Cannibal Holocaust is the best out of all of them. Found footage aspect and overall plot actually is somewhat engaging, although explicit to a fault. There is an attempt to create a message from the film rather than the other films being generally just being exploitation films. The overall uniqueness of the plot at the time generally makes it hold up more than the other cannibal films. So I do think it's a good horror film, but I do want to make it clear that I don't think the message is really that deep or strong when there's the rest of the film and the fact that they used a 14-year-old girl. Though you could bring the same argument to Salò, which I think was a very impactful film. There was an argument I heard multiple times that the usage of an adult film actor as the main character diminishes whatever message the film brings. I don't agree with that statement and don't think it should be brought up. Kerman seems like a nice guy and did overall great job with his role. Overall, Cannibal Holocaust is a pretty interesting piece of film history, and I don't think there's another film like it today. I truly believe it's a one-of-a-kind film. So that does it for this. I love you. Please like and subscribe. Watch the other videos in the series. And again, I want you to have a good day, and I love you again.